From a dark Gothic city where villains are the real heroes, to a vigilante who lives and breathes vengeance, here are all the ways we may see Matt Reeves' Batman 2 bring DC's best superhero to life. And how else, if not by exploring Gotham's darkest secrets? Because trust me, that city is full of those, and even 100 Batman movies won't be enough to cover them. But the fan in me is content knowing that Matt Reeves will know how to bring a darker Gotham to our screens. After all, they did a pretty good job of doing that in the first movie, which ended with the city in chaos, which, considering it's Gotham, was a given. But didn't you guys love how totally realistic it was this time? It was a mixture of Tim Burton's Batman aesthetic, mixed with Nolan's Dark Knight gloominess, while also reminiscent of the city in Batman's animated series. But of course, a lot better than all of them, because this time Gotham was dirty. It was a place of unending violence, where money spoke of the power and where even Batman felt lost. So yeah, when I say I'm expecting the next film to uncover more of the city's secrets, that's what I mean. That it won't only show us a vengeance-filled superhero trying to save it all, but a city that's set to throw curveballs at him at each turn, like the Wayne legacy. They were the founders and keepers of the city, after all, with a very big role in setting the power dynamics in it. That was something we all saw being set up in the first film too. So I'm betting that the second movie is going to go deeper into how the Waynes were responsible for ruining the place, and driving the evil in its underbelly where it has festered and turned men like Edward Nygma into villains. This could be a pretty interesting take if you ask me, because until now, all we've seen are pretty fantastical versions of Batman, where heroes and villains have already been set up by the circumstances that happened before the film's events. But this time, because of Matt's vision, we see a very different, darker version of the city, where crimes are committed for survival or out of anger, and not as an act of aggression to end the universe or something. And because of this, we have the world's greatest detective in his true shape and form, working with the GCPD, more like a private detective, even if in costume.
But I wanted to do a kind of sort of detective story noir and that whole thing. They were very responsive. They were very excited about that. I think
instead of being a superhero or vigilante who is above everyone else. In fact, I absolutely love the way his seriousness to solving cases blended with the more grounded version of Gotham, and that it showed him embodying the bleak tone of the city in his life and personality. Another thing I'd like to appreciate here is the film's ability to not change the world outside Wayne Manor and inside it. Like, if you guys remember in Nolan's The Dark Knight, there was a very striking difference between Gotham City and Bruce's life. He was truly living the life of a millionaire in his gazillion-dollar mansion, until Ra's al Ghul burned it to the ground. But here, the entire film followed the same theme, with Bruce's coming-of-power plot matching the way his home and life were set up. He still was driving expensive cars and wearing classic suits, but the gloom surrounding him in Wayne Mansion was exactly what we felt in the city itself. In fact, the only place this gloom didn't exist was in the nightclub and Penguin's lair. Which is pretty cool because by showing this, the creators made Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Gotham into one and the same. And this separated him from his villains. Speaking of whom, because this is a darker version of the city, the villains we'll see will be divided into two parts. The affluent club, who were once part of Thomas and Martha Wayne's inner circle, and the underprivileged, who were a product of the power struggle in the upper echelons. And now it will be Batman's job to save himself and the city from them as he uncovers the truths that have led him to this point. There will also be a titular villain here, who a lot of people think will be Mr. Freeze. He's been an absolute treat to watch in animated shows, but has never received due credit in live action. One way or the other, we've always been obsessed with the Joker, and while it makes sense considering how iconic he is, I think it's time to move away from the tried and tested formula. So yeah, Mr. Freeze could be a great pick here. And I'm not saying it because everyone else is. For me, this choice has two reasons. For one, he's a great character whose story is multifaceted, with a really sad theme to it. And this theme can help give our newly made Batman some empathy that drives him away from vengeance, toward a more principled superhero who is a lot more matured and understanding of the people's plight. And the second reason is that because the next movie is all gonna focus on Bruce Wayne and Batman. Adding Mr. Freeze to the mix can give him a more intelligent villain to fight with, giving him a better understanding of his own nature too. Obviously, this may add a little more fantasy to the story.
This is the version of the film that I wanted to make, and the amazing thing is I got to make it.
But I'm pretty sure Reeves will figure out how to present his vision of Gotham on screen, with villains like Mr. Freeze present, or even the Penguin, who will definitely be a major part of the next film too. First off, please send a mental round of applause to Colin Farrell, because that dude was amazing in the role. And now that we've got that appreciation out of the way, let's get to the fact that, according to Reeves, the Penguin series will have a major role in setting up the sequel movie. Now, fans have been speculating if this means the show will set up the villain of the movie or not, but I don't think that'll happen. My theory is that in the show, we'll see Gotham reeling from the impact of the explosions and the flood. With crime as high as always, and Penguin in power, we may also see a bit of his backstory, of course. But then by the end, once the show wraps up, it'll either create circumstances that lead to the film's villain's creation, or the backstory I just mentioned will uncover something huge about the Wayne family, which will then be reflected in the film. Whatever the case though, I'm sure Gotham's realistic feel will stay the same. And fans agree, especially lauding the way Matt Reeves' vision has brought the whole gloomy world to life. A lot of them have spoken about how you just can't match or surpass the depressing aesthetic of the actual Gotham City, which is such a big part of Batman's identity. So considering that this movie or franchise has taken its sweet time, connecting them together is pretty cool. Fans have also talked about how it'd be great if the movie went a more organic way than fantastical, but with elements of the comic and the villains in it, because where would we go without those? And while we don't have a lot of info on who is going to be the Terror in the next movie, what I know is that vengeance will play a role in setting up the plot, and a very major role at that. Because if we're finally getting a Batman who's so bent on bringing vengeance to the streets,
I'm vengeance.
my bet is he won't let go of the idea that easily. So yeah, while I do think we'll be seeing more of Gotham's darker insides in the next film, I'm sure the idea of vengeance, whether from Batman's perspective or from the villains, will be pretty well meshed with it, taking us on another adventure where we'll find out what the word vengeance means. For Batman, for his villains, and also for the city with its dark past and present. But that's all I've got about how Reeves may present Gotham's seedy underbelly in the Batman sequel.